Today we're going to discuss immigration and the reason for immigration to the United States. Now you should have already done your reading for this section of U.S. History C. If you've not, you need to complete that so you'll be prepared for the quiz. Now today we'll be discussing two basic groups of immigration. If you've done your reading, you know that we're going to discuss European immigrants and we're going to discuss Asian immigrants. And as we discuss these, you guys need to think about the reason they're coming to America. These two groups of immigrants are coming to America. You need to think about how they're treated once they arrive here at America. And you need to really think about some of the things that the United States does to its immigrants, and the reason why they accept some immigrants and the reason why they don't accept other immigrants. Now the first group of immigrants that we're going to talk about today are the European immigrants. Between 1870 and 1920, we're going to have about 20 million European immigrants arrive in the United States. Now this is a lot of people in a short amount of time. And the influx of people is going to cause some problems here in the United States. One of those problems being urbanization, which we'll discuss in the next unit. Now there's two different European immigrant patterns that we need to discuss, and you should have gotten this from your reading, but you need to understand there's a pre-1890 or before 1890 pattern and a post-1890 or after 1890 pattern of European immigrants. And now the pre-1890 pattern, the European immigrants are coming mostly from northwestern Europe. But we do have a small number of immigrants coming from southeastern Europe. And it's important you understand these two areas of land. Okay, so pre-1890, we've got the majority of the immigrants coming from northwestern Europe, with a small trickle of immigrants coming from southeastern Europe. And now the northwestern states, or the northwestern countries where these immigrants are coming from, would be Great Britain, Ireland, Sweden, Norway, France. Okay, some of these other countries, Denmark, these countries that are in the northwestern side of Europe. Now, the United States loves these immigrants, and the reason why is because we came from Great Britain. We feel like we have a tie to Great Britain. We feel like we have a tie to these northwestern European countries. We feel like they are very similar to us. They have a very, very close government to ours, where they have democracy. And I understand that most of these have a king and a queen, but they have a parliament. They have a type of Congress where the people can make laws and make decisions. The customs are very similar. The culture is very similar. The food that they eat is very similar to us. They're for the most part speaking the same language. So these northwestern European immigrants are very well received in the United States. Now, post-1890, that immigration pattern is going to change, and we're going to start receiving more immigrants from southeastern Europe than northwestern Europe. As you can see, we still will receive a few northwestern immigrants from Europe, but the majority will come from this southeastern region of Europe. Now, post-1890 immigration pattern looks like this for these countries. You've got Italy, and you've got Bulgaria, and you've got Poland, and Europe, and Russia. And you've got all these southeastern European countries coming to America. Now, we have a bigger problem with these countries coming to the United States, which we'll discuss here in just a minute. European immigration pattern. You can see the North and Western European countries, Southern and Eastern European countries. And as you can see, 1881 to 1890, we're going to have 82% of immigrants coming from Northwestern Europe and only 18% from Southeastern Europe. And that will change. 1891, you can see that it starts to shift, where we have 60% of southeastern Europeans coming as immigrants to the United States, and 40% of northwestern Europeans coming to the United States. And here's the big change right here. 1901 to 1910, we have 76% of southeastern Europeans as immigrants, with only 24 of northwestern Europeans as immigrants. And this is a huge problem for the United States, because we don't really like the southeastern Europeans coming to the United States, which we'll talk about. After 1910, after World War I, the United States will start restricting southeastern Europeans from coming to the United States. So the immigration pattern will start to level out again because of our restrictions and our quotas that we'll place on southeastern European immigrants. And now the problems with the southeastern European immigrants. The biggest problems that we have with these is that they're different than us here in the United States. They have a different religion than the people that are used to practicing in the United States. They've got a different culture. They eat different foods. They wear different clothes. They look different than we do. And the big thing, the reason why we're going to start restricting their immigration is because of their different political systems. The bottom line is the southeastern Europeans are starting to practice communism and socialism and a couple of these other political systems that we don't like, that we don't trust, and our big fear is that they're going to come and take over our government and change the way of our life here in America. And so we will start restricting these immigrants, these southeastern European immigrants, after World War I. And there'll be a huge restriction on southeastern immigrants, which we'll talk about in unit number 5 of U.S. History C. Now, there are several reasons why the European immigration pattern, why these European immigrants are coming to the United States. The first one is to escape religious persecution. That's the first reason why people are coming over here. That's the reason why the Pilgrims came over to the United States, is to escape religious persecution. Another reason why we'll have a large immigration pattern from Europe is because after people begin to get healthy, there's going to be a rising population, and the bottom line is jobs will be scarce over in Europe. We will have only a little bit of land over in Europe, so they're coming over to America looking for jobs, looking for land. And because of the Industrial Revolution, the United States will have jobs over here. And so they will be coming over here looking for jobs. On political turmoil, the governments change quite often, especially in southeastern Europe. So these people are coming over here looking for a stable government. And then the last one is a better life. And this is the number one reason why people came to America. This better life, they're looking to change their station in life. They're looking to have more money, have more land, have a better job. So they're looking for all these things in the United States. Now they're going to face challenges coming to America. These European immigrants are definitely going to face challenges coming to America. They're not rich by any means. So the first challenge they're going to have is to save enough money to buy passage to America. And then on the journey over to America, they are going to face some challenges also. The first challenge they'll face is just the length of the journey. These immigrants are going to be traveling basically for a week. It's a week-long journey on a boat to America from Europe. And now because they are not the wealthiest people in Europe, they can't afford an expensive ticket over to America. So they'll be traveling what's known as the steerage. Now the steerage is the bottom part of the boat. and these immigrants will not be allowed up on the main deck to mingle with the other rich passengers. And so they'll be basically on the bottom of the boat almost the whole trip. Now, because of the amount of immigrants coming to the United States, these ships will be crowded. That is a great picture of all of these immigrants coming to the United States. As you can see, this ship is a crowded ship, and 20 million immigrants coming in a short amount of time is not going to help the cause. And because the fact that they are in the steerage, they're not allowed up on deck to get fresh air, that it's crowded, all these things are going to enable disease to go through these immigrants. And a lot of the immigrants will be sick and will die before they even get to the United States. Now, once they get to the United States, they will be processed at a station known as Ellis Island, and Ellis Island is in New York. Now, once they get to Ellis Island, once they get to America, they're going to have to pass an inspection, and they're going to have to prove that they want to be here in America. Now, this inspection, this processing is going to take hours, and they're going to come in to America. They're going to get off the ship, and they're going to wait in lines. And this is a great picture of these lines these immigrants are going to have to wait in. And we're talking a large number of immigrants in a short amount of time, so these lines will be very long. And the thing I love about this picture is you can see them all waiting in line, but you can also see that they're not bringing very many belongings with them over here to America. Now, they're going to be inspected by doctors for help. If they are sick, if they have contagious disease, they will be sent home immediately. Okay? They'll be put on another boat going back to Europe. So they just came on a week-long journey. If they have a contagious disease, they will be put on another boat, and they will be sent back over to Europe, where they came from, where the country that they came from. They have to prove that they were not criminals over in Europe. They've got to prove they can be upstanding citizens here in the United States. They have to have a little bit of money in their pocket. They have to have $25 to their name when they step off the immigration boat. And they've got to prove that they can make it here. They also have to be able to work. We want our immigrants coming into the United States this time period being able to work. We feel like a lot of people are coming during this time period, and we do not want any freeloaders. We want to make sure that they can sustain themselves when they are here. And that's one of the main reasons why they're coming over here, is to find a better job, to find a better life, those type of things. So they've got to be able to work, which we will talk about tomorrow, how these companies take advantage of these immigrants coming in, and the fact that they do want a better life and they do want to work. They want a better job and a better way of life. Now, these immigrants are going to settle. These European immigrants will settle on the East Coast, because that is where they're being processed. That is where they are coming into the United States. So they will settle in New York and Philadelphia and Boston. They will settle in these East Coast cities. They will also settle in the Midwestern states. And the reason why they settle in these Midwestern states is because the United States is giving away free land over in these Midwestern states to kind of, first of all, settle it, and second of all, start farming it. And through the Homestead Act and the Moral Land Grant Act, these immigrants are going to pick up some free land in the Midwestern states. Now, if they're living in the cities, these immigrants will start settling in what's known as ghettos. Now, what is a ghetto? Here's a couple pictures of ghettos for you. This is a Jewish ghetto, and as you can see, it's a group of people that are all Jewish, and they are all dressed pretty similar. It looks like they are at a market buying things, probably for customary meals and culture aspects. This is an Italian ghetto right here, and again, as you can see, they're all dressed pretty similar. They all look pretty similar. And the ghetto is basically these ethnic groups are going to come together and they're going to live together. Okay? So a ghetto is an area of a city inhabited by people of the same ethnic group and culture. Now, the reason why they're going to start living in these ghettos is because they're coming from a country they're very familiar with. They're coming to the United States where they are a little nervous, they're a little out of place, they don't look like other people, they don't sound like other people, so they're going to start moving into these ghettos for comfort. And they're going to start moving into these ghettos so that they can speak their language, so that they can live their culture, so that they can be around those people that they're comfortable with. And a lot of these ghettos will be filled with these people that want to continue to live their culture. Now, the second group of immigrants that we're going to talk about today will be the Asian immigrants. Now, the Asians are going to come over for three basic reasons. Okay, quick fortune, jobs, a better life. Okay? And these will be the reasons that the Asians come to the United States. Okay? Quick fortunes, jobs, better life. Okay? They're looking for the better life also. Now, the challenges they're going to face, these Asian immigrants are going to face coming to the United States, will be the journey, first of all, will be 3 weeks. So it's longer than the European immigrants coming over here. They will also be down in the steerage, the bottom part of the boat. They will also not be allowed unless they paid a higher passage to come on deck. Now, they will also face crowded ships, and because of those things, disease will also go through these immigrants. Now, the Asian immigrants will take a different route than the European immigrants, obviously. And just in case you didn't know, Asian immigrants will come from Korea, Japan, China, Philippines, and all of these Asian countries. Now, here is the Asian immigration pattern. As you can see, they're going to land in California. They will land in California at a place called Angel Island. Now, it's really important that you understand right now that Asian immigrants are only going to make up less than 1% of the immigrants coming to the U.S. Less than 1% of the immigrants coming to the U.S. Now, they're gonna arrive on the West Coast, just like we talked about. These Asian immigrants will arrive on the West Coast, and they're going to gain a mission. They're going to be processed at a place called Angel Island, and Angel Island is in the San Francisco Bay. Now, we're going to treat these Asian immigrants a little bit different than the European immigrants, and they're definitely going to be a tougher process to get into the United States, which we will talk about. These are a few detention buildings at Angel Island, and they had to build this island up so that they didn't want these Asian immigrants coming into the United States without being processed. They didn't trust them. So they built these detention centers, and these people will be detained on Angel Island for months, 4 months, before they are allowed to go into the United States. And it will be a very harsh internment for these Asian immigrants. Now, a couple challenges that these Asian immigrants will have to face after they get to America. Well, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to have to pass inspection, just like the European immigrants, except for it's going to be harder. They will have to find a place to live. And this is a great shot of some of the buildings that these people were living in. As you can see, it's a very rundown apartment complex, and these are known as tenement housing right here, just rundown apartments. They are going to have to find a job. Now, most of these Asians will work on the railroad, and we go out and we recruit, as the United States, we recruit these Asians to come over and work on the railroad. And the Asians and the Irish will basically build the Continental Railroad here in the United States. This is probably the biggest thing that the Asians have to overcome, is this culture barrier. The bottom line with these Asians, they are so different than the people already living here in the United States that this is a challenge for them. This is the biggest challenge that they have. Their culture is so much different than the culture here in the United States. They've got to overcome that somehow. And now, as you can see from these pictures, the Asians don't dress the same way as the people in the United States. They don't eat the same food. Their religion is so different than the people in the United States. Their government is different. So they've got a lot of challenges coming over here. These Asian immigrants have to find a way to get through this culture barrier. Now, the Asian immigrants will settle on the West Coast. That is where the Asians are coming into. That is where they'll settle. They'll settle in California and Oregon and Washington and Arizona. And now, because they are helping build the Continental Railroad, they'll also settle in these Midwestern states, and they will also receive free land through the Homestead Act and the Moral Land Grant Act. And again, these Asian immigrants will settle in ghettos, just like the European immigrants. They will settle in ghettos for the same reason. They want to feel a comfort level. They're so different. They want to be around people that are the same as them. This ethnicity is key. This culture is key. And they want to be around people that are practicing the same culture. They want to be around people that speak their language. They want to be around people that they feel comfortable with. And so they will start moving into these ghettos also. Now, because of this large immigration coming to the United States, 20 million in a short amount of time, we are going to have a little bit of friction starting with the people already living here in the United States. We will have this friction come about. Now, the problem we run into is most of the immigrants coming to the United States really want to assimilate into the American culture. They really want to take that upon themselves. And they want to assimilate, and they want to be part of America. Others are going to create ghettos, and they're going to create these communities where they're all the same culture, and that is not assimilation. Now, because they are committed to their culture and to the United States cultures, we will get into this problem where they're going to call themselves Italian Americans or Polish Americans or Chinese Americans. And this is a problem that we run into because the native-born citizens here in the United States do not like these immigrants and their customs and their language, and they feel like that they should assimilate to United States culture. And the bottom line is these native-born Americans, these native-born citizens in the United States really don't like the differences. They don't trust these immigrants. They don't understand these immigrants, and so there's going to be some friction that develops between the native-born Americans and the Southeastern Europeans, the post-1890 pattern, and the Asians. Because again, the Northwestern, we're all right with them because they're very similar to us already. Now, nativism is just this overt favoritism toward native-born citizens. As the immigration increases, these anti-immigrant feelings, this hatred towards immigrants is also going to increase. Now, nativism will lead to government reform, government restriction against immigration. Okay, now, discrimination is going to start to begin at this point. Okay, discrimination will start to begin at this point. And discrimination is just treating people differently. Okay, that's what discrimination means. Now, we will have our main problem with the Asian immigrants coming here, and they make up less than 1% of the immigrants coming to the United States. But the Asians, we're gonna struggle with these immigrants more than anybody else, and there's two basic reasons why we will struggle with the Asian immigrants more than any other immigration group. And the first reason, we talked about this already, the culture, this culture barrier. This is tough. These Asian immigrants are coming over to the United States. They don't dress the same way as we do. They don't talk the same way as we do. They don't eat the same food as we do here in the United States. They have a different religion. This culture, the United States, these nativists do not like this culture. They want to have an American culture. And this is as far from an American culture as you can get. And it's tough for these nativists to deal with this culture. And so that's one of the reasons why they're going to start discriminating and start restricting Asian immigrants, is because of their culture. The second reason is Asians will work for less than Americans. Now, because of this, the Americans feel like it is hurting their job opportunities. The first way it's hurting their job opportunities is because these Asians are coming in and taking all of their jobs. The second way these nativists feel like these Asian immigrants are hurting their job opportunities is because if the Asians will work for less, then these businesses will hire them, and it hurts the pay for nativists. It hurts the pay of those workers that have already been there, because these employers would rather hire somebody for less, and once somebody is working for less, everybody has to work for less. So the two problems that nativists have with the Asian immigrants is their culture and the fact that they will work for less money. Now, because of these problems, because of these nativists, the government will start restricting Asian immigration. And the first way they will do that is by passing the Chinese Exclusion Act. That will be passed in 1882, and then it will be renewed in 1892. And the Chinese Exclusion Act will basically stop Chinese immigration to the United States. We will not allow Chinese immigration to the United States unless you have family already over here. Okay? So if your dad and your mom or your grandparents live over in the United States, we will allow you to immigrate over here. Okay? If you're going to school, we will allow you to immigrate over here. Okay? If you're on vacation, we will allow you to come to the United States. But if you are just a worker, if you just want to come over here for a better life and stay here, these Chinese immigrants will not be allowed into the United States, okay, because of the Chinese Exclusion Act. Because of the Chinese Exclusion Act. Now the other one is the Gentleman's Agreement, and you should have already read about this in your reading. In your immigration reading. Now, the Gentleman's Agreement will happen in 1907, when San Francisco begins to segregate Japanese students from white students, and segregation, which we'll talk more about in U.S. History D. The segregation is just the separating of races. We will begin segregating Japanese students from white students. The Japanese emperor will not be happy about that, which you already read about. And so Theodore Roosevelt will make a gentleman's agreement, basically a handshake agreement with Japan, and it will be that we will, here in the United States, not segregate Japanese from white Americans or from these Native Americans, and Japan will no longer send over workers. And that is the gentleman's agreement with Theodore Roosevelt. Now, the problem that the gentleman's agreement is going to bring to the U.S. is the fact that we've always said that if you have a family member over here in the U.S., you can immigrate over here. Now, the problem with the gentleman's agreement is because these Japanese want to come over to the United States, and we have already a large population of Japanese citizens here in the United States. When we annex Hawaii, we have a large number of Japanese citizens that were living on Hawaii. Well, the problem we run into now is we will start getting these Japanese brides coming over here, these mail-order brides coming over here, where the nativists, these Americans, will start ordering brides through the mail, and so we will allow these mail-order brides, these Japanese brides, to come to the United States. Well, that is the presentation for today. Hopefully you had a chance to fill out all of your notes and annotate your article. Make sure right now you need to answer the essential questions. You need to make sure that you get your task done on immigration. And the task on immigration, you just basically need to, it needs to be in paragraph form. Okay, that's the first thing that we need to do, is we need to do a better job of writing our tasks out. Okay, so you need to be able to make sure that you can interpret and write a description of the impact that immigration had on the U.S. And you need to make sure you use these terms: post-1890, gentleman's agreement, pre-1890, ghetto, nativist, Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882. And make sure you use those terms. And then when you get that done, make sure you do your homework for today. You can find the homework on the web page, and make sure that gets done. And make sure that you continually will be caught up on your work. If you have any questions for me, feel free to make comments on the question and comments portion of the board, or raise your hand during class next time you're in class. That is all I have. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your time.